Hey everyone, my name is Catherine and it is day 12, I believe, of my Arctic trip with Cork Expeditions, where we are visiting the 3 Arctic islands, Svalbard, part of Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. And we also got to visit a 4th island for a surprise fun. But today is our 12th day and we are going to be doing a cultural visit, which we haven't seen any people since we started this trip, like off the ship. So I'm very excited to see this cultural visit and see how people live here, and just super exciting. So it is right now just after 8, so I'm going to get breakfast and then we're racing right now, so we're going pretty fast on the ship to get to the cultural site on time, and I think we'll be there shortly after 9 and be there in the morning from whenever we get there till lunchtime. So I'm very excited. I think this will be the highlight of my trip. Honestly, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm so intrigued because we've been so remote this entire trip, like week and a half. I haven't seen a single person that's not from this ship. It's been super remote, so I'm so curious to see how people live here. And yeah, I think it's also the last day we're doing things that's not a sea day and then disembarking, which is sad, but this will be a great way to have our last day. And then I think we'll have lunch and then a Zodiac cruise, but things are always changing, so we'll see. But first, breakfast, and then prepare for a cultural visit. So let's go.
We have arrived, and I can't stress enough how crazy it feels to see civilization after not seeing it for nearly 2 weeks. But I was so incredibly excited to be here, and there's about 350 people that live here. It is the most isolated city or part of Greenland, probably even in the world, honestly, because 95% of people in Greenland live on the western side, and this is on the eastern side. The closest thing to them is a national park, which is one of the most isolated national parks in the entire world. It is just crazy, and the only people that come here that aren't living there are a couple of ships a year, such as the one I'm on. And yeah, it's just a crazy concept, but I was so excited to come visit.
Okay, I've made it to the island of ET something. I cannot pronounce it, it's very long. And I'm about to explore around. So beautiful, and it's just wild to see people living in a village for the first time, and they're gonna feed dogs, so let's go check it out. Oh my goodness, we found the dogs. In the grocery store in town. It is so interesting, both because I haven't been in a grocery store in like 2 weeks, but also to see how they live here, because it's so remote, and I don't know how much the conversion is. Like this, I don't know what that means, but I will look it up later, but I'm sure it's expensive because it's so remote and things have to be shipped out here. But it's so fascinating. We want to go back to the dogs to see them get fed at 11, which is in like 20 minutes. So cute. I think he's just a few weeks old. It's very sleepy.
So we ended up exploring a bit more, and I love the different colors of the houses. They typically will represent a certain thing because there's not like different street numbers and signs. So a blue house will symbolize something with like fish, or another color for a schoolhouse, or another color for a hospital. But here, because the town is so small, they'll only have one church or one school or one jail, and it's just such an interesting way of life. There was also this rabbit. We saw an Arctic hare, and I was really wanting to see one for my entire trip, so I got to check that off. I was really happy about it. And then we went to what I was told was a coffee shop, and was really surprised to see that it was actually just somebody's home. They had all this really cool design like that narwhal tusk. I got to drink some tea, and then we were heading back to the ship. And this was when I realized this is the last time I'm going to be on land for this trip, because later we're going to do a Zodiac cruise and then head on our way to Iceland, where we're going to get off the ship. So it was a bit bittersweet. This was my absolute favorite thing that I've done so far on this entire trip. So we ended it off with a highlight for sure.
Hey everyone, I'm now back on the ship. I actually just had lunch because normally we have lunch around 12:30 and we got on the ship at like 12:50, so we kind of had to rush to get there because I don't know if they were closing at the same time, which is an hour time slot, so like 1:30. But anyway, I'm here now, and yeah, that was honestly such a highlight of the trip. I loved being able to see that community and how they live, and it was just, of course, so different than any of the other things and landings that we've done, because again, we've only seen this entirety of this trip other than when we were in Longyearbyen, which was the first day of the trip, so it wasn't unusual to be in a city with other people at that point. But since then, and this is like a 2-week or just over 2-week trip, we have only been in very remote places where no one lives there. The only traces of humans are from like 1100 or 1300, and it's like rocks or holes in the ground. So it was really cool to be able to see people take the type of environment that we've been in and make it into a place that is, you know, civilization, where they live, where they have a hospital and churches and a grocery store and a community center and plumbing. And yeah, it was just really cool to be able to check everything out. And so when we got there, we saw the dogs immediately. We heard the dogs actually immediately, and it sounds like they're Greenlandic wolves or huskies. Like, it's like a type of a husky, but it's very unique, and it's a Greenlandic style dog, which I'm sure is like, they're built different and they're meant to be like working dogs and live in these more harsh environments. And yeah, so we saw them, we saw the puppies, and then I got to pet them, which you all saw at this point. And afterwards we went to like a community center, we went to the supermarket, we went up and got to see all the different colored houses. And then we were told there's this really chill Arctic hare, and I really wanted to see an Arctic hare, which I hadn't yet at that point. So I was really excited too, because I love rabbits, and so checked that off the list because I really wanted to make sure I would see one on this trip. And then I went to the cafe, which I thought was going to be a like very small cafe. I was told that we could only have up to 6 people at a time in there, so I was like, oh, there might be like 3 tables available or something, which is fair given how small this community is. And I walk in and immediately realize it is somebody's home, and they opened up their home to us and were serving us tea and coffee, which was really sweet, but it just threw me off because I was not expecting that, and I felt like I was invading, but it was open for us and they had tea and coffee available. And yeah, so that was so really cool to really be in someone's home and see like how they live. And it really gave, like my friend was saying, it reminded me, or reminded her of her grandma's house, and I could kind of say the same for me, with this like older woman, and then assuming her husband lived there. So yeah, it's very, very sweet of them. And then I realized we had to get going because we were far from where we were dropped off with the Zodiacs, and we needed to leave in order to make it back on time, and I didn't want to be those people that were late. So then we walked down and are back on the ship. So right now we are transiting to our next spot, and I believe we will have a Zodiac cruise. And that's just when we stay on the Zodiac. We don't go on land, but that's always changing, so you never know. But today's like the last regular day, because tomorrow, from my understanding, is a sea day where we're transiting from Greenland to Iceland, and then the next day we're just wake up on the ship and pack and get dropped off. So that's crazy. I feel like I've been here for months, but then also I can't believe it's already coming to an end. So yeah, and that might have been the last landing where we actually get on land before we disembark of the trip, which is sad, but it would be definitely an epic last landing, because I think for me, that's going to easily be my favorite part of this whole trip, is seeing the community and how they live. So yeah. Anyway, I have no idea how long we have until the next spot, but I think I'm gonna go up to deck 8 and be around people and enjoy the scenery. I actually haven't been up on deck 8 since the day before yesterday, which is kind of crazy. I was just kind of being a lazy bum here, and after a while I felt like so sluggish, so that's good that we did a hike yesterday. I needed to like wake up a bit, you know, and get out of that mentality, but I think I'm gonna be a little more social today and go up to deck 8 with the observation views and everything. So anyway, I chat for a while. So anyway, I will talk to you later, maybe show you some views or once we're on the Zodiacs. But yeah, see you then. Bye. Also, just for context, this is how or what is the view from my window. So land is over there, and then icebergs in the distance, and lots of water. We're going pretty fast now that we're not in the fjord, or we're like exiting the fjord. Hey everyone, I've been back on the ship for a couple of hours. I just didn't have time to talk to you all directly right after, because once we got on the ship, dinner time was pretty shortly after, and we also had a briefing where we get presentations from like the historian or the biologist or whoever, and then we get updates on what's coming on or what's going to happen for the following day. So yeah, that actually reminds me, we're having to set our clocks forward an hour. I need to do that after I finish filming this for you all, just so I wake up on time tomorrow. But anyway, yeah, it's just crazy because that was the last Zodiac cruise or time, really anything that we're doing that's off the ship for the rest of the voyage, because today is the 25th and we disembark the 27th, and I'm assuming that's going to be in the morning more or less, or definitely by lunchtime, and we are sailing from Greenland to Iceland all day tomorrow. So that was our last activity off the ship, and it's just all kind of, I got to the routine. It feels like I've been on this ship for a long time because there's been so much newness and excitement, but here we are at the tail end, and I think that was though a really good last hurrah for what we've done, because I got to see it. I think we have like a tiebreaker or a record for the amount of polar bears we've seen for a voyage. Today we saw 3 more, and that brings the count up to 18 for this voyage of seeing 18 polar bears. And they announced it when we had docked, but before we'd gotten off the ship, that there's 3 polar bears that had been spotted, a mother and 2 baby cubs. And usually I have a hard time spotting animals, whether it's with binoculars or especially without. It's just, I don't know, for me, like, it's hard for me to find small specks of things moving in like the vast wilderness. Some people have an eye for it. I don't ever do that in my day-to-day, so I'm just not good at it. I don't know. But I was able to, from my balcony, immediately spot them, and I was so surprised, and it was just a perfect way to end it. The main, most like big animal that everyone's the most excited to see, that's the most like unique, I want to say, like the, you know, king of the Arctic or whatever. And I was able to spot the last one immediately with the 2 cubs, and they were like actual little cubs, because the last mama bear with the cub that we saw, they stay with their moms for 2 to 3 years, and the cub was almost the size of the mom. I wouldn't have known it was a cub if I wasn't told, because it was that big, whereas these were like proper cubs. According to Greenland, or at least based on what my expedition guide who was in the Zodiac was telling us, is that Greenland is actually more strict with how close we could get to bears. And honestly, they were saying that we aren't allowed to like have any sort of activities done if bears are spotted, but at that point, by the time the team had noticed that there were polar bears, they already had dropped the anchors on the ship and did all this stuff, and we're in the middle of taking people out. So to have like a happy medium, we still got to zodiac around, but we went away from the polar bears and focused more on the glacier and ice and things like that, and we're able to see the polar bears from a further distance than from the ship, and then the ship ended up moving further out, so kind of made it a happy medium. But yeah, I just feel like it was a really good last zodiac cruise with those polar bears and being able to see the glacier, and there was some like breakage of the glacier, so being able to see that again. And my zodiac driver was even like at certain points just turning off the engine and letting us sit there in silence and just enjoy nature. And there was a lot of pieces of ice in the water, as you saw, and it makes this crackling sound because it's air pressure that's being released. And so the sounds of the like crackling and certain animals, but they're not very loud. It's mostly like the crackling of the ice and just the water. It was just very nice and peaceful. So yeah, that was what we did. And then we had dinner and that briefing that I mentioned as well before dinner, and then we had Arctic trivia night. And now I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna set my alarm forward an hour. They also told us that mostly during the night, but maybe into tomorrow, the ship is trying to avoid a cyclone, which makes it sound bad, but they said that the swells, so how high the water goes up, and like wind speeds, should be similar to how it was earlier in the trip. And we've been pretty lucky with calm waters outside of that one time, but I did get seasick a bit that last time, and I'm not used to that and I want to avoid it. So I might take seasickness medication before bed, because it is best when it's preventative. And it also, although it says it's not drowsy, I was drowsy last time, so taking it before bed, and hopefully like at that point I'm going to sleep, so the drowsy part doesn't matter. But we'll see if I get any more footage for the rest of this trip, honestly. I hope to see you in a future video of mine. Bye!